Imagine this moment. You are digging in your backyard on a Saturday afternoon. Perhaps you are building a garden. Perhaps you are installing a fence post. Perhaps you are just digging a hole. Your shovel hits something. It is not a rock, it is hard and heavy. You bend down, you brush away the dirt, your eyes widen, it is shiny, it is yellow, it is unmistakably gold. In that instant, your life changes. Or at least, it feels like it changes. Your mind races, you calculate. A gold nugget the size of your fist might be worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe more. You think about paying off your mortgage, you think about buying a new car, you think about retirement, you think about freedom from financial worry. You think about the life-changing possibilities that one piece of shiny yellow metal represents. But before you call the bank to tell them you are paying off your mortgage, before you tell your boss you are quitting, before you tell your family to start packing, you need to know something. You need to know that finding gold in your backyard does not mean the gold is yours. You need to know that discovering gold, despite what your instincts tell you, might not make you rich. And you need to know that some of history's greatest gold discoveries have brought as much misery as fortune to the people who found them. This is the story of gold discovery. It is the story of treasure hunters and gold rushes, of fortunes made and fortunes lost, of governments and mining companies, of the difference between finding gold and owning gold. It is the story of why the shiny yellow metal you find in your backyard might legally belong to someone else entirely. Most people have never seen real gold. They have seen pictures of gold. They have seen gold jewelry, gold coins, gold bars. But they have never held pure gold in their hands. So when something shiny and yellow appears in their backyard, they often cannot tell if it is real gold or something else entirely. The sad truth is, most of the time it is something else. Fool's gold is the problem. Fool's gold is a mineral called pyrite, which looks remarkably similar to real gold. It is shiny, it is yellow, it is heavy, but it is worth essentially nothing. It is as common as dirt. In fact, it is literally in dirt. Pyrite forms in many soil types. It forms during the weathering of rocks. It forms in many different geological environments. Inexperienced people discover pyrite constantly and become convinced they have found real gold. There is a simple test to distinguish fool's gold from real gold. Real gold is soft. You can scratch it with a knife. It will leave a gold mark on a ceramic tile. Fool's gold is harder. It will not scratch easily. It will not leave a gold mark on ceramic. But even with these simple tests, many people convince themselves they have found real gold when they have actually found pyrite or other worthless minerals. When people do find real gold, it usually comes in two forms. The first is gold nuggets, which are chunks of pure gold that have been separated from surrounding rock by weathering and water movement. Gold nuggets can range in size from microscopic specks to massive chunks weighing hundreds of pounds. The largest gold nugget ever found in Australia, called the Welcome Stranger, weighed 72 kilograms and was found in a creek bed in 1869. That single nugget, at today's prices, would be worth roughly $2.5 million. The second form is gold embedded in rock as microscopic particles or thin veins. This is harder to see and harder to extract. An ore sample might contain actual gold, but the gold might be distributed throughout the rock in such small quantities that extracting it is not economical. The difference between a valuable gold deposit and worthless rock with traces of gold is often just a matter of concentration. A rock containing 1 ounce of gold per ton of rock might be worthless to extract. A rock containing 10 ounces of gold per ton might be valuable. This is the fundamental distinction that people do not understand. Finding gold is not the same as finding a gold mine. Finding a few ounces of gold is not the same as finding a deposit with millions of ounces. Finding gold that is technically extractable is not the same as finding gold that is economically valuable. The difference between these categories will determine whether your discovery makes you rich or merely costs you money. Geologists test suspicious rocks to determine whether they contain real gold. They use several methods. Visual inspection under magnifying glasses can sometimes reveal gold. Chemical testing can dissolve rocks and identify gold in the solution. Assaying, which is the scientific process of determining the metal content of a sample, can precisely measure how much gold is present. But even with these tests, determining whether a gold discovery is economically valuable requires expertise. This is why people who find suspicious gold often need to consult with professional geologists or mining companies. Let us imagine that you found real gold, not fool's gold, not a small speck, but genuine, testable, confirmed gold. You have submitted samples to a geologist. The results come back. Yes, this is real gold. The concentration is significant. There might be more. This could be something substantial. In that moment, everything changes. Your backyard becomes a center of attention. If you are not careful about who you tell, word spreads. Neighbors become interested. Local mining companies become interested. Government agencies become interested. Within days or weeks, your quiet residential property might be visited by surveyors, geologists, and representatives from mining companies. People who were previously indifferent to you suddenly want to talk to you. This is the turning point. This is where many people's dreams collide with legal reality. Mining companies will offer to buy your property or lease mineral rights. Government agencies will send inspectors. Environmental officials will demand assessments. Your simple backyard now has dozens of stakeholders, all with their own interests and agendas. If the gold discovery is large enough, it can attract international attention. Large multinational mining companies with expertise and capital will become interested. These companies have the resources to develop a gold mine. They have the technology, they have the expertise, they have the capital. But they also have armies of lawyers, and they know that owning land and owning what is underneath the land are two different things. In some cases, the discovery is so large that it becomes a matter of national importance. Governments wake up to the fact that a significant mineral resource has been discovered within their borders. Suddenly, your backyard is no longer private property. It becomes a national resource. Government officials who have never heard of your street are now discussing what should be done with the gold underneath your house. This is where the dream starts to collide with reality. The moment a gold discovery is confirmed, you lose control of the narrative, you lose privacy, you lose autonomy. Other interests begin to exert pressure on you and your property. This is the critical fact that most landowners do not understand. Owning land does not mean you own everything under the land. Owning property, in the legal sense, means owning the surface. It means owning the right to build on the surface, to grow things on the surface, to use the surface. But mineral rights, the right to extract minerals from beneath the surface, are separate from surface rights. They can be owned by different people. In many countries, especially in developed nations with long histories of mining, mineral rights were historically separated from surface rights centuries ago. When land was first surveyed and assigned to owners, the crown or the government often retained mineral rights. This means that even though you own your house and your backyard, the government owns the right to extract minerals from beneath your house and backyard. In the United States, mineral rights are governed at the state level, so the rules vary depending on which state you live in. In some states, surface owners automatically own mineral rights. In other states, mineral rights are often separately owned or controlled by the government. If you bought your house in a state where mineral rights were historically separated, you might not own the mineral rights to your property even though you own the surface. In Australia, all mineral rights are owned by the Crown, which means the government. If you discover gold in Australia, you do not own it. The government owns it. You can receive compensation, and you can potentially negotiate a mining agreement, but the gold fundamentally belongs to the state. The same is true in Canada, where mineral rights in many cases are owned by provincial governments or other entities separate from surface owners. In some countries, the situation is even more extreme. In many African nations, all mineral resources are owned by the national government, regardless of who owns the surface. A person could own land and property, but have absolutely no claim to minerals beneath that land. This is by design, reflecting the theory that natural resources belong to the nation, not to individual landowners. The history of mineral rights separation is long and complex. It originated centuries ago when mining was a dangerous, destructive activity that governments wanted to regulate. Governments separated mineral rights from surface rights to maintain control over mining. This made sense at the time. A mine could destroy the surface, pollute water, create sinkholes. Governments wanted the ability to regulate this without the surface owner blocking the mining operation. But the consequence is that even if you discover gold in your backyard, you might not own it. You might not even have the right to mine it. Someone else, usually the government or a previous mineral rights holder, might own the right to extract the gold. If you attempt to mine without permission, you could be breaking the law. There are documented cases of people discovering valuable minerals on their property only to discover they do not have the right to extract them. A woman in Australia discovered significant quantities of gold on her property, only to learn that the government owned all mineral rights. A farmer in South Africa discovered diamonds on his property only to learn that a mining company held the mineral rights. In both cases, the landowners could not claim the resource beneath their land. Even in countries or states where surface owners do own mineral rights, the government maintains significant control over mining. National resource laws, environmental protection laws, and safety regulations give governments the power to regulate or restrict mining operations. You cannot simply start digging for gold without permission, even if you own the mineral rights. Mining requires permits. Environmental impact assessments must be completed. Water quality studies might be required. Archaeological surveys might be required. Safety plans must be submitted. In some cases, community consultation is required. The permitting process can take years. The costs can be substantial. By the time permits are approved, you might have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on paperwork and assessments. Additionally, the government has the power to seize mineral resources in certain circumstances. Eminent domain laws give governments the power to take private property for public benefit with compensation. In theory, a government could seize mineral rights if it deemed the mineral important to national interests. In practice, this is rare, but it is legally possible in many jurisdictions. Environmental regulations can also prevent mining. If a mining operation would damage water aquifers, harm endangered species, or violate air quality standards, it can be blocked or heavily restricted. Environmental laws exist for good reasons, but they can prevent mining operations that would otherwise be profitable. The real answer to the question, can the government take it, is, it depends. If mineral rights belong to the government, they already own it. If mineral rights belong to you, the government can regulate your extraction heavily, can prevent extraction for environmental reasons, and in rare cases can seize the rights. The practical result is that even discovering gold does not guarantee you the ability to extract it or profit from it. Let us assume, for the sake of argument, that you found gold, you own mineral rights, and you have obtained mining permits. Would you become rich? The answer is probably no. Gold is expensive to extract. The cost to mine gold depends on the size and accessibility of the deposit, the depth, the surrounding geology, the price of energy, and the cost of labor. Modern large-scale mines typically have extraction costs between $500 and $1,500 per ounce of gold. At current prices, gold is worth roughly $1,800 to $2,000 per ounce. This sounds like a good profit margin, but it is not. Mining is capital-intensive. Operating a mine requires enormous upfront investment. A small gold mine might require $10 million to $100 million in upfront capital investment. You need to purchase equipment: excavators, trucks, crushers, separators, refineries. You need to build infrastructure: roads, storage facilities, offices, worker facilities. You need to hire workers and pay them for months or years before the mine produces its first ounce of gold. You need insurance, permits, environmental monitoring equipment. Now imagine you are a homeowner who discovered gold in your backyard. You probably do not have $50 million. You probably cannot raise $50 million. This is where mining companies come in. They have the capital, they can develop the mine, but they will want compensation. They will want a substantial percentage of the gold. They might offer to buy your mineral rights outright for a lump sum. They might offer a percentage of net profits, but either way, you will not receive the full value of the gold. Even if you somehow found the capital to mine the gold yourself, you would face other challenges. The gold might be worth less than you think. Maybe the deposit contains 1 million ounces of gold at current prices, worth $2 billion. But maybe the gold is distributed in such a way that extracting it is inefficient. Maybe the surrounding rock is hard and difficult to break. Maybe the deposit extends deep below the water table, requiring expensive dewatering operations. Maybe unexpected geological conditions emerge during mining. Many small-scale mining operations have failed because the economic reality did not match initial estimates. The gold was there, but extracting it cost more than the gold was worth. The difference between a successful mine and a failed mine is often just a matter of economics. A deposit that is profitable at $1,800 per ounce becomes unprofitable if gold prices fall to $1,200 per ounce. This is why most small gold discoveries never become mines. They are not economically viable. The gold is there, but extracting it is not profitable. An individual who finds gold in their backyard and lacks the capital, expertise, and infrastructure to mine, it will almost certainly end up selling mineral rights or the property itself to a company that can. So to answer the question, would you become rich Probably not. At best, you might receive a modest payment from a mining company in exchange for mineral rights. That payment might be enough to pay off a mortgage or buy a car. It will not make you wealthy. The real wealth goes to the mining company that has the capital and expertise to develop the deposit. But there is a counterpoint to this pessimistic view. History shows that gold discoveries can sometimes create enormous wealth. During the California Gold Rush of 1848, an estimated 300,000 people migrated to California seeking gold. Some of them struck it rich, some of them became very wealthy. The gold rush lasted roughly a decade, and it transformed California from a remote territory into a booming state. The story that started it all was James Marshall's discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill in 1848. Marshall found shiny yellow flakes in a river. He showed them to John Sutter, who owned the mill. Sutter recognized them as gold. News spread. Within months, fortune seekers from around the world were flooding into California, all hoping to find gold like Marshall had found. Some prospectors did become wealthy. A single pan of gold-bearing sediment could yield an ounce or more of gold. A successful prospector working hard with a pan, a shovel, and a sluice box could extract significant quantities of gold. In the early years of the gold rush, when gold was abundant and easy to find, ordinary people could indeed become wealthy in a matter of months. But most prospectors did not become wealthy. Most spent their savings traveling to California, bought overpriced supplies, worked for months and found little gold, and returned home poorer than when they left. The real winners of the gold rush were not the prospectors. They were the merchants who sold supplies to prospectors at inflated prices. They were the transporters who moved supplies and gold. They were the property owners who rented land. The Klondike Gold Rush in Canada's Yukon region followed a similar pattern. In 1896, George Carmack discovered gold in Rabbit Creek, which he renamed Bonanza Creek. News of the discovery spread slowly, but when it became widely known in 1897, roughly 100,000 people rushed to the Yukon hoping to strike it rich. The rush lasted several years. Fewer people found significant gold in the Klondike than in California. The conditions were harsher. The gold was harder to extract. Most participants in the Klondike Gold Rush lost money, but a few struck it rich. Those who did become wealthy, like Carmack himself, found gold quickly and in large quantities, and then left the region to enjoy their wealth. The gold rushes created boomtowns. San Francisco grew from a small settlement to a major city in just a few years. Dawson City in the Yukon grew from nothing to a city of 40,000 people at the height of the rush. But when the gold ran out, many of these towns became ghost towns. Dawson City's population fell below 1,000 after the rush ended. Many boomtowns were completely abandoned. The historical lessons are mixed. Gold discoveries can create wealth, but they usually do not create wealth for the people who find the gold. They create wealth for merchants, suppliers, and infrastructure providers. They can create wealth for governments that tax the gold. But most prospectors who chase the dream end up disappointed. Gold discovery still happens in the modern world. Major gold deposits have been discovered in recent decades in Australia, Canada, Papua New Guinea, Ghana, and many other countries. The scale of modern discoveries is enormous. A major discovery might contain 10 million to 50 million ounces of gold. At current prices, that is $18 billion to $100 billion in gold. But the story of modern gold discovery is very different from the story of gold prospectors finding nuggets in a creek bed. Modern discoveries are made by multinational mining companies using sophisticated equipment and geological knowledge. The companies use airborne surveys to detect geological anomalies. They drill core samples. They conduct extensive testing. They estimate the size and value of deposits. When a major deposit is discovered, it is developed by large mining companies with the capital and expertise to do so. The mine operates for decades, extracting millions of ounces of gold over its lifetime. It creates jobs, pays taxes, and generates wealth for shareholders. But the people who live near the mine, the indigenous peoples whose land is affected, and local communities often do not benefit equally from the gold wealth. The Grasberg mine in Indonesia, discovered in 1988, is one of the world's largest gold reserves. It contains an estimated 70 million ounces of gold. The mine is operated by Freeport-McMoRan, an American mining company. The Indonesian government receives royalties and taxes. But the indigenous Papuan people whose land is above the mine have experienced environmental damage, water pollution, and social disruption. The wealth from the gold has not equally benefited those living near the mine. The Newmont Corporation discovered the Carlin Trend in Nevada, which has produced over 30 million ounces of gold since its discovery. The company has become one of the world's largest gold producers. The Nevada government has received tax revenue. But the Nevada landscape has been transformed by mining. Former mining areas now look like lunar landscapes. Water resources have been affected. The long-term environmental cost of the gold extraction is still being calculated. Modern gold discovery creates wealth, but the distribution of that wealth is unequal. Mining companies become extremely wealthy. Governments receive some benefit through taxes and royalties. Workers in the mines receive wages. But local communities, indigenous peoples, and environmental systems often bear the costs of mining without receiving equal benefits. So let us return to our original scenario. You find gold in your backyard. It is confirmed as real gold by geologists. Now what? What do you do? What mistakes could you make? What should you do first? The first mistake most people make is telling everyone. You find gold and you tell your neighbors, your family, your friends, your colleagues. You post on social media. Word spreads. Before you know it, people are showing up asking about your gold. Trespassers are searching your property. Your privacy is gone. The best first step is to tell nobody except people with a legitimate need to know. The second step is to research the mineral rights situation in your jurisdiction. If you live in the United States, research your state's laws regarding mineral rights. Do you own mineral rights, or are they owned by the government or someone else? The only way to know is to research the deed to your property and the mineral rights history of your land. The third step is to hire a lawyer who specializes in mineral rights and mining law. This is not a decision to make casually. A good mining lawyer can advise you about your rights, about the realistic value of your discovery, and about your options. A lawyer can also advise you about negotiating with mining companies. The fourth step is to have a professional geological assessment conducted. A geologist can determine whether the gold is real, estimate the quantity and quality, and provide an assessment of the deposit's potential. This assessment will help you and your lawyer understand what you are dealing with. The fifth step is to be cautious about negotiations with mining companies. Mining companies are sophisticated negotiators. They employ lawyers, geologists, and financial experts. They know how to negotiate favorable contracts. They know the real value of mineral deposits. They know how to extract maximum value while giving landowners as little as possible. If a mining company offers to buy your mineral rights or lease them, have your lawyer review the contract carefully. Do not accept the first offer. Negotiate. Ask for higher royalties, better terms, and guarantees about environmental protection. Mining companies expect landowners to negotiate. If you do not, they will wonder if they offered too much. The sixth step is to understand the reality of your discovery. You probably will not become wealthy. You probably will not strike it rich. The best outcome is probably a modest payment from a mining company. The realistic outcome is either a relatively small payment or no payment at all if the deposit is too small to be economically valuable. The seventh step is to consider the long-term implications. If you lease mineral rights, mining will occur on your property. Your surface will be disrupted. Noise, dust, and truck traffic will be constant during mining operations. Water resources might be affected. The landscape will be transformed. These are costs that cannot easily be compensated with money. The eighth and final step is to be realistic about the legal framework you are operating within. You do not control the mineral beneath your land in many jurisdictions. Even if you do, government regulation is extensive. Your discovery is not your treasure to keep. It is a resource that will be negotiated over by you, the government, mining companies, and potentially other stakeholders. Your role is to protect your interests as best you can, knowing that you will likely not win everything. Discovering gold in your backyard would be exciting. There is no denying that. Finding real gold after all these centuries of mining on Earth is a rare experience. Most people never will. Most people will go through their entire lives without ever seeing real gold nuggets. But if you were to find gold, you would need to quickly overcome the initial excitement and begin thinking clearly about the legal, financial, and practical implications. The first hard truth is this: finding gold and owning gold are different things. In many jurisdictions, the gold beneath your property is not yours to keep. It belongs to the government, or it is owned by someone else who holds separate mineral rights. Even if you do own mineral rights, mining is expensive, complex, and heavily regulated. The gold might be valuable, but extracting it might not be economically feasible. The second hard truth is this: you probably will not become rich. Historically and in modern times, most gold discoveries do not make the discoverer wealthy. The real wealth goes to mining companies with capital and expertise, to governments that tax the mining, and to merchants who supply the mining operations. The discoverer usually receives a modest payment or no payment at all. The third hard truth is this: your discovery will complicate your life. Your privacy will be invaded. Your property will attract unwanted attention. Negotiations with mining companies will be stressful. Environmental impacts might occur. Your surface land will be disrupted. The simple homeowner's life you had before the discovery will change dramatically. Yet there is another perspective. If your gold discovery is significant, and if you handle it correctly, you might receive substantial compensation. You might become moderately wealthy, if not rich. You might be able to pay off your mortgage, put your children through college, and retire comfortably. The compensation might not make you a billionaire, but it might substantially improve your life. The lesson of gold discovery is that dreams and reality often diverge. The dream is of striking it rich, of becoming wealthy beyond imagination, of never having to work again. The reality is far more mundane. It involves lawyers, geologists, government officials, and mining companies. It involves careful negotiation, realistic expectations, and acceptance that you will not get everything you hoped for. But this does not mean gold discovery is worthless. Throughout history, gold discoveries have changed people's lives. They have created opportunities. They have opened doors that would otherwise have remained closed. The lesson is not that discovery is worthless. The lesson is that discovery requires wisdom, caution, and realistic expectations. If you find gold in your backyard tomorrow, congratulations. You have experienced something rare. You have touched a part of history. You have discovered a natural treasure. But remember that the treasure beneath your soil might not legally be yours. Remember that extracting it will be expensive and difficult. Remember that you probably will not become rich. And remember that the best advice you can receive is to hire a lawyer. Move slowly, negotiate carefully, and protect your interests as best you can. The dream of finding gold and becoming rich is as old as human civilization. It has driven explorers, prospectors, and ordinary people to extraordinary efforts. It has created legendary stories and powerful myths. But the reality of gold discovery is usually more prosaic. It involves property law, mineral rights, environmental regulations, mining companies, and government officials. It is less romantic but more realistic. This is the truth about finding gold in your backyard. It might not be yours. You might not become rich. But it might change your life anyway, if you handle it wisely. The choice and the responsibility would be yours.